In a world infested with monsters, we find a young man fighting with a demon dog of LV4 in order to survive and level up in experience. Despite having won and reached his goal, the guide tells him that he is still in LV1. To manage to move to another region, he has to overcome the LV5. 10 years have passed, the young man is still in the same world. He became strong and has gained experience. But there is an error in the system that does not really indicate his level. In another part of the world, we have a girl and a boy, both are in a village. The girl is killing a man while her companion is watching so that they do not see her. The girl finishes her purpose and both walk away, setting fire to the spot without a trace. We return to the place where the prota is fighting with various monsters, getting LV13 of experience, while wondering why he is in that world, what happened to his loved ones, and of not having dated a girl after being discharged 3 months ago from military service. The guide mentions to him that because of his talent, the survival rate is 5% low in Salha-Rathna. The prota does not know what his kidnappers want by abandoning him in a different world, but death is not an option for him. The guide mentions that the individual has discovered his fighting spirit by increasing his strength and providing him with several skill options to choose from. Option 1, Resource Warrior, melee fighting skill and martial arts knowledge. Option 2, Resource Sorcerer, use of mana and handle 6 magic attributes. Option 3, Magic Swordsman, excellent handling of swords and increasing their power in them. Outstanding choices for the prota, however, is rejection when choosing some of the first 3 options for not having the ability for some of these. Leaving the option 4, Warrior class, a skill in which is trained with several weapons, decides to opt for a spear, a long-distance weapon, but give him a long sword as the main weapon. The world called Felher-Ratuna must survive and get stronger not to die along the way. Let's go back in time to how the protagonist came to Felher-Ratuna. His name is Ryu Hanbin, was discharged from military service, and what he did every day was to wake up at noon, eat fried food and play on your computer. But something strange happened, was absorbed along with 7 billion people selected. Each of them would acquire a guide. However, there was a failure with the guide for which Ryu Han was selected. The people who kidnapped everyone did not take much importance to be just a mistake. Returning to the above, Ryu Han been trapped in a world called Telha-Ratuna, discovering what their purpose is to be chosen and how to resume their way home. 7 days have passed for Ryu Han to learn a little bit where he is, but his ability is still low. He fights against a Hellhound of LV2. His sword handling is not good, but it is good for stabbing, making him gain and raise in skill. In the period he has been, the guide has shown him that the blood and meat of Hellhounds are good nutrients of fat, carbohydrates and minerals after cooking. Has risen in experience, is allowed to leave the area where he is and go to the mountains of rock, where it is an area with low probability of death and excellent to gain enough experience. Low-level monsters found there. To continue his journey, he has to climb to LV5, where he will meet later with Chosen and learn from their current situation. Arriving at LV20, he will be fully able to travel all over the map of Thenarana and go to the Rathna Contender. Ryu Han despairs at the new information that the guide has provided him, but his main goal now is to go where I indicate him and get the others to know how to return home. Every day he struggled to increase his experience and skills. The monsters increased their levels, but he didn't give up. 27 days hurt, fighting, eating and sleeping it took him to reach the maximum experience to be able to move from area 3. Skills learned for the moment: stabbing, lateral cut and vertical cut. In spite of reaching the required level, the guidebook, when it failed, downgraded him to beginner. Somewhere in the world we found an individual, one of the hijackers, reviewing the statistics of each individual, waiting to see if they are useful. Ryu Han has already given up with his guide. He knows that it does not work when it comes to level up, but he knows that he has enough when it comes to fight with the dogs, and they are getting stronger. The previous individual realized that Ryu Han is the person of the mistake and that he has survived 22 years in the same level. He is in the 3rd world of 5 of them. For the moment he decides that he has to die, which changes his dimension when he believes that he only has LV4. Ryu Han Bin is transported to a totally different world from where he was. In this one there was sun, trees and fruits, the opposite of where he was for more than 10 years, shadows, fog and darkness. Ryu, happy and excited, begins to explore when the guide appears and explains that he is in the forest of Saith in the Greylock Kingdom north of the continent of Ratha. Doubtful asks why he is there if he had to be at LV20 to examine the continent. The guide does not answer his question. However, it announces that he has a final mission Kill one of the 6 goddesses and he will get 3 rewards. 1. Eternal youth and immortality. 2. Send him to Earth with his status intact. And 3. Fulfill 3 wishes. However, he will have to have factors to consider. Keep his identity as a person from another world secret from others and register with the Hunters Association in the corporate city of Onpris. Ryu puzzled and processing the information. A furious dragon appears to attack him with a blue flame to turn him into ash. Ryu quickly dodges the attack and prepares to defend himself when he realizes that he does not have his sword with him. The dragon, confident that the human cannot attack him, Ryu takes advantage of his cluelessness and gives him a punch, sending him flying. Some time later, the sad dragon talks to Ryu, explaining that he is not a dragon but Gaiverno of LV-27 and that he was only trying to kill him because in his past he served a king, but due to an accident while flying he died and the guards of that time tried to capture him to kill him, so he decided to escape to the mountain where he is. Ryu, confused in the story, asks him where he is and how he knows that he is a human from another world, to which he answers that they are in the Exrado Kingdom. The kingdom of Greylet was destroyed years ago. He thought he was a demon from another world to be informed by the goddess. That information called Ryu's attention, asking him to explain more in detail about the goddess. The Gaiverno, sobbing, will tell him everything he knows only if he releases him from the rope where he is tied, and not to tell that he is in the mountain and talks. Ryu accepts. The story begins that humans have been appearing in Rathna 40 years ago. The humans of the other world and the Rathians got along well, but that harmony did not last long. The humans began to kill the Rathians and managed to level up. The most powerful ones joined together, creating the Great Ursula with the objective of killing the queen. Every day they became stronger and leveled up, as well as the dragons. Just by killing their opponent, there is no way to stop them when they are led by someone from LV-100. Before they will come to that barrel, the king gives the sword. Zenobia the Archimaga, Garhan the Terrible, and Holian the Transcendent of Life and Death. The 4 heroes managed to massacre the humans in battle. Later, the 6 goddesses bless the continent, and the humans of the other world who have made contract with the Demon King are executed instantly. Ryu, angry that he has been kidnapped and taken to a place he does not know why. He thinks that if they find out his true identity is from another world, they can kill him. He tells the Gaiverno not to say anything about his secret. He decides to go to the Guild of Hunters and complete the mission, but changing some things, kill the Demon King. Ryu becomes friends with Gaiverno, who explains to him a little of the behavior of the people in Rathna and how he can meet the goddesses. He has to be one of the 4 heroes or have done a great service to meet them and receive their blessing. The surest way for this to happen is that he has to become a hunter and kill the monsters in the dungeons that were created by the demon god Ormflaus. Heighten, analyzing the information, tells Gaiverno that his guide told him that part of the mission. He is confused because he does not see what Heighten is mentioning. Onpris Ryu Hunters Guild is registering. All who are in the place are attentive to their movements to look so strong and very different from the others suspect him. The girl who is attending him tells him to place his palm on a measuring rock to know what level he belongs. If it indicates that it is level 20, is from another world, but this announces that it belongs to LV5. They give him an identification medal that he can change it when he has leveled up. There is bustle in the place. 2 individuals have entered. The first is a guy who makes fun of Heighten when he hears him say that he is going to the dungeons. Laud is his name and his NV is 27. His species is human. Apparently he is the highest. The sales clerk tells Laud to accompany Ryu to the dungeon, but Ryu just wants to make him look bad and deny having already another more efficient companion. The second individual is a girl named Addis Maga of NV-25, but the guide mentions that she is NV-37 species. Human. Ryu wonders why she hides her true level, but she has her reasons. Laud speaks again and mocks Ryu for his giant sword. He tries to take it, but he can't even move it. Ryu in one movement lifts him up with the sword and tells him to let go. Laud is shocked. The people around exclaim, "Fight." What Ryu does not imagine is that in a high part of the place someone is watching him, interested and thinking, "I found him." Still in the same place, the person who observes him from afar approaches Ryu, interested in proposing him to be in his group. Having a well-worked body, he will easily reach NV-10. The individual is a gentleman of NV-25. The adventure begins in the city of Onpris, was developed because of the dungeons and monsters. Business and deals are settled around the hunters. The city creates products and materials that the hunters themselves bring after a battle. There are 2 main areas of hunting that take place in Onpris: the dungeons in Iffin's Plains and the entrance area of the Saith Forest. There are a lot of monster attacking the forest vicinity lately, so several hunters have participated in the subjugation quest. Devolok, the high-level monster that inhabits the safe forest. They have slow movement, but their grips are strong enough to crush a rock. They use their weight to create more powerful attacks. The one from NV25 has the name Bearman Ropal. Swordsman is fighting one of those monsters along with his group. Amber Bonnet. Spearman NV21 High Damage Ripper. Erwin Ropal, Healer NV6, and younger sister of Berkman. Humbert Crudaus Mage NV18, a support that meets behind the team. Heighten Charger, Swordsman NV5. The Berkman team leave Ryu behind for being low level, and not wanting him to get hurt with the high levels. Several monsters around him have been watching him, waiting for an opportunity to attack him. An ogre demon Lord Devolk NV25 shows up, on his way to him, but Heighten, without paying attention, starts throwing small stones like bullet, hitting him right on target, thus knocking out the demon and several of them. The guide appears, announcing that the monsters are very low level, and that he should hunt higher levels. Team Berkman yells to Heighten that they are done. They meet to see what they can take to the city and sell. Hearts, skins, and heads start to select. They ask Heighten if they are not disgusted in all that, but he replies that he has seen as in more 20 years ago. Everyone is surprised and asks how old they are, to which he replies 24 years old. Everyone thinks his parents are crazy, but he clarifies that he was kidnapped 20 years ago and don't remember them all. Moved, they hug him and tell him that he is part of their family now. Heighten, happy to be with this group, asks when they are going to the dungeon to level up. They tell him that they are not going there because it is a very dangerous place. Surprised by the information, he declares that he is going to practice with the sword, which is a lie. He runs off looking for high-level monsters. Several minutes have passed and he has not found any that work for him until he starts to hear something strange among the trees. Walking in the direction where the sound comes from, he finds a boy without clothes. Nervous, Heighten begins to babble and realizes that the magician who is with Laud is not a girl but a boy. He gives an apology and turns to leave, but Addis stops him. Bruno turns, but hears what he says, because a NV5 is in that area. Heighten, when answering, is interrupted by Laud making a scene. Ryu, seeing what Laud does, is a little confused. He doesn't know what to say. Laud prepares to launch an attack and Heighten dodges it with an apologetic bow. Later, Laud is not seriously injured, but he can't fight for a while. He also realizes the true gender of his mage and enters another crisis, so he is sent back to the city of Onpris. 3 months have passed. Heighten has not managed to level up. Laud's accident and passed to the background. All are gathered to sleep or still in the forest. Ryu is creating a plan to go to the dungeon without anyone noticing. After everyone is sound asleep, gets up and starts walking through the forest, decides to go to her friend Giverno to ask where you can find high-level monsters. However, on the way he finds a Tetiro NV31 has a strong armor with which it is useless to attack him. Espadas are weak physical attack. They are weak with magical attacks, usually live in the dungeons. Heighten knows that he will not be able to defend himself as usual. The Tetiro realize that it is a space. They do not approach him by possessing a magic sword. These flee. They sneak through a portal that goes to the dungeons of Ifan. Ryu takes advantage of the portal and dives. Meanwhile, in the dungeon we find 2 people fighting with the Tetiros, but they are not winning the battle. In that, a light blinds everyone and Laud appears, killing all the Tetiros with his double sword attack, thus saving the 2 people who are in danger. He gives them a healing potion, then turns around to leave. When a small shake occurs in the dungeon, a herd of Tetiros appear, and the 3 go blank. During that time, in another part of the dungeon, we find Heighten annihilating all the Tetiros in an easy way without worries. Disappointing, thinking that he would find more difficult monsters. He continues walking. When he finished with all of them, he finds an artifact. Fireball Bracelet Power Core. Curious to see the bracelet, he takes it, thinking when he will meet the middle boss, but he did not realize that he killed him when he was walking calmly. Ryu tries the bracelet, but it doesn't work for him as it has a requirement only level 31 can use it. Disappointed with the artifact, he throws it away, and some stairs appear to go down in the dungeons. He decides to go down and fight with the boss he finds. A beholder tentacle of NV45 is located. Ryu, happy to find a high-level monster, thinks that with him is more than enough to get the experience. He begins to delay a plan to defeat it. A door at the end of the room is opened and Laud appears. He is blank when he sees Ryu, but he doesn't accept it. Being a NV5, it's very unlikely that he is there. Ryu takes advantage of the fact that Laud thinks it's a hallucination and starts heading towards the monster. Laud starts attacking Ryu, who dodges it easily. The monster attacks Laud. Heighten takes advantage of a blind spot and kicks him. Laud breaks free from the monster. He keeps attacking Ryu while Ryu dodges it. The bellholder tentacles are difficult to deal with. Even among dungeon bosses, although they do not possess any destructive attacks, they are able to mock the intelligence of humans, as a result trapping them and infecting them with parasites, turning them into powerful monsters. Ryu without much effort knocks him down and wins, discouraged, thinking that it was going to be more difficult, looking for the exit. Arriving at the camp where his team was, all worried, he wonders where he is, to which he appears and answering the question, hunting dogs to eat. Being a little shocked by the information that the guide gave him minutes before arriving at the camp after defeating the boss. He obtained experience 113.340, thus leveling him up, but he doesn't know which one exactly. He thinks he has skipped several levels, but the guide informs him that to level up he has to have 54,581,862.560 in required experience. Returning to the present time, the Berkman team decides to return to the Onfrost village earlier than expected, not getting more monsters. At the entrance they are forbidden to pass. All confused ask why to the officials. These answer that the dungeons of Dujin were closed and all the hunters were summoned 5 days ago to see the problem. Heighten nervously asks what happens if a human closes it. So he answers that would be a big problem. A human from another world between the dungeons annihilating all the bosses. That would mean that he has a higher level, and the Inquisitors who belong in the Dark Church would send them to kill. Heighten is in the village trying to find buyers to offer everything that the Berkman team found in the 3 months of hunting. No seller accepts him because of the crisis they are going through at this time. Heighten is face to face with one of the Inquisitors of the church. He suspects Heighten when he sees that Heighten has an artifact. He asks him where he got it. Heighten does not know what to answer. The Inquisitor tells him maybe you are a human from another world because there is no other simple explanation. You cannot give me an answer. Are you trying to see my level? Is that what you are analyzing? Heighten answers. He is nervous to see someone wearing a black robe and a mask that does not show his face. The Inquisitor remains analyzing him. He asks him again what level he has, so Heighten answers NV5. He does not believe him. The Inquisitor will confirm it by myself. In one movement he holds Heighten's palms and places them on a measuring stone. He announces that he is at level 5. The Inquisitor is puzzled with the answer. He turns around and continues on his way. Heighten tries to offer again what he brought, but he is still denied what he is offering. The Inquisitor has stopped halfway and speaks to Heighten again, where he tells him that he is going to tell him a brief story about an adventurer so that he is aware. Heighten, serious and quietly, listens carefully. 15 years ago, a married couple lived in an eastern town. The husband was a veteran adventurer. He was not the leader of his group, but he had the power to attract people. It was a normal day, and his group was in charge of a mission. However, he was terrorized by a seemingly harmless monster. His team did not know why the strongest and most heroic acted so. When his group members forced him, the monster replied, "Your level is higher than 800. When his teammates didn't believe him, he had to tell the truth. He was from another world and could see everyone's levels. However, the monster discovered them, and the man was left behind and fought against the monster to buy time for his teammates to escape. Then the Inquisitor asked Heighten who exactly died in this story. As expected, Heighten replies that it would be the man he revealed his identity to. The Inquisitor gives a half smile and replies no. He continues the answer that it was the group, except the group leader and the man. He continues with the story. The group leader was extended as he reported the truth to the Inquisitor, and the other members died while under investigation for suspicion of sympathy for allying with the otherworldly man. The otherworldly man miraculously survived and returned home. However, the villagers who heard the rumor and were influenced burned down the house, and there was no one who could welcome. He massacred all the villagers and escaped. People who get involved with the otherworldly man would become unhappy. People who get involved with other otherworldly beings would become unhappy. But you who are NV5, what sin could you get you? Heighten, a little puzzled, asks the Inquisitor what was his objective in telling him this story, and he replies, by having an artifact from another world, being an ever-beginner adventurer is something uncommon just to keep you on your toes. What group do you belong to? Heighten, when answering, is interrupted by Addis, scolding him for the artifact, saving him from the Inquisitor. He is a little confused by the appearance of this person, so he asks who is he. The Inquisitor talks to Addis about the relationship between the two. He answers that he is an errand boy that he hired a few days ago because he is new in the village. Heighten, listening to the answer he gives him, realizes that he is helping him. The conversation ends and Heighten and Addis leave the place. Addis and Heighten walk away, so the Inquisitor asks one last question. What is the ability that the artifact has? Heighten and Addis answer at the same time. fireball and electricity. The Inquisitor, not satisfied with that answer, tells them both that they have to accompany them to the church. They are trapped inside a circle of wind. He tells them not to go out because their limbs can be cut off. Heighten, thinking about what to do. He was going to tell him the truth but is interrupted by Laud making a big shocking entrance, announcing that he has graduated, and that he is responsible for stripping the dungeon. Everyone is shocked. He arrives explaining that he fought a high-level monster and was knocked unconscious for a few seconds, but when he woke up he was dead, so he guesses that he fought to the end, managing to win the battle. He took the core of the dungeon, and after that the portal closed, so he ended up in the plains of Heighten. He was then found by the two previous individuals he saved in the dungeon and brought to the village. The Inquisitor wants to hear the whole story, so he captures him and takes him to the church, apologizes to Heighten and gives him a boy with a large sum of money. He leaves in his carriage. Berkman's team is in the guild looking for information about what has happened, but no one is there. Only the sales clerk and a caretaker. Everyone there relaxes a little. They start talking about the dungeon, creating theories about who could have closed it. They start to eat and drink while waiting for Eric to return. Some time later, Addis enters the guild with the backpack that Eric was carrying and gives it to Berkman along with a letter. In this letter, Eric is saying goodbye and thanking him for everything. Amber checks the backpack where she finds 10 bags of 1000X. Berkman, a little sad, asks Addis if he knew the reason why Eric was leaving. He answers that he didn't, but he had a sad face, walking through the village sad and remembering the story that the Inquisitor told him. Heighten unintentionally breaks a stroller of some thugs. The Berkman team tries to decipher why Eric wanted to leave his group. Mr. Berkman says it is sad that he left, but we can't force him to be with us when he has to risk his life. Heighten, tied to a chair, wakes up disoriented when he sees the boss of the thugs, who angrily asks him if he broke the legs and arms of his group, to which Heighten replies that it was not so. They beat him, and with the blows they themselves broke his limbs. The small group of thug replies to his boss, telling him that the body of that guy was not normal because it felt like a wall. He must be using magic. The boss turns to Heighten if that is true, which calmly tells him, I don't know, you want to try. The boss wants to punch him in the face and ends up breaking his hand, and being a level 11. In all the commotion, more people arrive wanting to attack him, but they begin to open the way to an old man, and he announces that he should be released, saying that it is not worth attacking him because in the same way all of them would have been defeated. Heighten, a little surprised by his answer, asks him how he knows that, and the old man answers that if he wants to know, he should work for him. 6 months have passed since the dungeon disappeared. We are in Addis City in the residential area east of the castle wall. The group of thugs is evicting a family from their home. These do not want to leave, so the husband arrives with a sword to defend his family. The boss observes him and shouts hammer. In that arrives Heighten with a giant hammer with iron head, destroying the house. It happens that the family is sent to a new building for what is driven by the builders of Addis, showing him all the descriptions of their new home being more modern and safer by the monsters. The family accepts the contract, and the group leaves. Heighten, quite annoyed, goes to the office where the old man who hired him half a year ago works and asks him where he got the idea of those buildings because they are not seen at that time, so the old man does not answer him and, a little more impatient, begins to destroy the desk and the papers that are around him. The old man looks at him and says, I know you are human from another world. You know how I realized, because you don't live like the others who are here. You don't eat, you don't sleep, and you spend your time hiding from everyone. People like you see you as adventurers. If you don't fight and live normally, nobody will think you are from another world. If you want to live as a human ... don't associate with adventurers after this job. Heighten replies that he has no intention of continuing as an adventurer, but someone knocks on the door and in walks the person who is not expected. Heighten, surprised by the person who enters the office. It is Mr. Addis. He greets them both and starts to give the explanation of why he needs Heighten. The old man in his business form tells him what he needs him for. Addis gives him a little explanation of what things are happening in Scythe Forest. Heighten listens to him attentively. The old man takes a sigh and kicks Heighten out of the window and tells him to go take responsibility for the actions you have done before. He is shocked that grandfather has accepted him and upset with Addis that he went to look for him after such a long time. He still agrees to help him, but only temporarily. In the Southern Forest, they go walking in the mountain looking for some samples. They found different monsters of low levels in which they were very tender for Heighten. But for Addis they were very dangerous, burned everything around Heighten, wondering internally what was the need for that. After a while walking, they decide to camp. As it is getting dark, they make a campfire, and with talking Addis asks Heighten if he thinks of returning to be a hunter, in which he answers him and no. Addis gets up when he hears something strange in the forest, and Heighten prepares to defend himself. A demon lion of NV21 that lives in the dungeon comes out, Addis casts a spell and annihilates it instantly. Heighten, surprised by this, asks him what spell he cast, and he answers that it was a suffocating fire, drowning it with the smoke in his own lungs so it cannot call more monsters. Impressed, they tell him that it was great. After that, both go to sleep, each one in their tents. The next day, walking, they find a lair with several wolf demons of levels 21 to 27, all of them from the dungeons. Heighten and Addis begins to prepare several things from afar to watch them, seeing what they are doing. Heighten next to him begins to take a telescope from the backpack. In this, Addis takes it and observes that they have a human hostage, decides to go to save him. But Heighten prevents him because there are many monsters below. So he creates a plan and begins to burn everything around him. When they get to where the human is already dead, they begin to inspect the place, so they find a plate of the hunter level 27. This seems strange to them because there have been disappearances for some time. They begin to make accounts and come up with the theory that there may be another new portal to a new dungeon. While they are searching, Heighten manages to find it in a tunnel. He calls Addis and he goes to where it is. He inspects it and says that it may have been created by someone of a level higher than 60. While they are analyzing it, a Lich of NV72 appears. It is a skeleton. It can regenerate from physical damage. It manages to feel energies transmitted by people. The Lich is excited because he has visitors. He feels Addis's energy but not Heighten's, in which he tells Heighten to run away, which he refuses completely. Both get ready to fight. In a distraction of the Lich, Addis takes the opportunity to throw him an explosive iron cube since he cannot be physically damaged. He throws that bomb and both run, but apparently it is not enough. The Lich begins to freeze everything around him and wants to turn them into cubes. This power is affecting Addis a lot, but not so much Heighten because of his high status. Here is the moment where he decides to really fight to save them both. Addis is almost fainting, but he uses his last ace up his sleeve. He gets up and tells Heighten that whatever happens now, run away at the opportunity he sees. A little puzzled, he tells him that he will not leave him, but he yells at him. He ends up agreeing to Addis's request once the ice barrier is broken. Addis prepares to attack. He places himself in front of Heighten and throws two. The Lich, without being able to see through it, begins to throw ice arrows in any direction, but a dragon surprises him out of nowhere. Heighten, stunned by the creature he is seeing at that moment, leaves the astonishment and says, "You are a dragon," referring to Addis. This one answering that he would explain everything once they get out of the fight they have now. The Lich, observing the creature with grace, shouts, "You're just a 100-year-old baby. I heard that at birth spits fire from the mouth. Is that right?" We will find out at the end of the entertaining talk. The battle begins again. The Lich is in a high place after the smoke arrows launched earlier, responding with a tornado of ice, but Addis with its wings covers Heighten so they do not hurt. This is returned with a particle cannon with super hot compressed mana. Lich dodges the attack, jumping, throwing a ball of ice. Mocks Addis, wanting to protect Heighten. This shouts Addis that you can. Addis, annoyed, reminds him that it is NV5. It would be suicide if he enters the battle. Lich begins to launch several attacks on Heighten, who dodges them. The ice barrier is broken. Addis takes the opportunity to remind him that he has to leave, but he denies again as in the beginning, so as not to endanger Addis. He decides to leave, but creating a plan from outside to help him. Lich shouts, "You can't leave. The fun has just begun. I have something very special prepared." Heighten covers himself with his arms, but before someone hurts him, Addis covers him and he gets hurt by the attack. Heighten feels bad for not doing anything. Addis has been protecting him and he hasn't done anything. But things start to change when the Lich sends a final Sword of Judgment attack. Heighten takes advantage and jumps up and responds with a side slash, destroying the remaining barrier, the attack, and sending the Lich away. Addis rises from astonishment and asks him how that was possible and if he saw when the measuring rock announced that it was NV5. He replies with a smile that is a long story, but that both are even by hiding their true level. This does not remain so. Lich, without surrendering, invokes Gehenna Entanglement, are tentacles that trap their prey, and absorbs all the energy. Never let them go to die even if the one who invoked it is trapped. That nothing for Heighten by, which destroys them easily. Lich is amazed at how a NV5 has destroyed each of his attacks, so I ask him how is that possible. Heighten gets ready, but first he asks how is it possible for him to see his levels if he hasn't said anything, let alone Addis. The Lich feels cornered. His secret has been discovered. Reached, so Heighten asks him if he has the power to guess since no one has hit his level because he is so big and looks strong. His other theory is that he is from another world. He knows what to answer, so he tries to run away again. But it's useless, it is. And with a sword blow they send him back to where he was previously. The Lich doesn't know what to do. He asks him why he hasn't attacked him with his aura since he is strong enough to destroy him. He is letting him live to hand him over to the Inquisitors and get the reward. He tries to make a deal with Heighten to give him triple what they offer, but he doesn't know what he is talking about, so he throws several stones to get him down from where he is. Addis yells at him to use his aura to neutralize him, but he doesn't know how to use it, so the Lich takes advantage of his absent-mindedness to throw blocks of ice. Heighten creates a wall with a rock to protect himself, but it's not enough. He realizes that the Lich has a new crack in his skull, interested in getting closer to see the best ones. He attacks with a sword, managing to catch the Lich, and in a sinister way he tells him those new marks were not there when we started. Scared, he runs away and tries to go far away, thinking that he has killed countless humans for a Muslim to take him down. He realizes that if he turns him into dust he can't regenerate. Flying, he realizes he doesn't have his legs. When he turns around he sees Heighten with both, and a rock. This one starts rubbing him on it, turning him into ashes. Addis, in his human form and a little more recovered, gets up, heading to the Lich, who is embedded with Heighten's sword without his arms and legs. Addis asks him what it means about the herd, for which the Lich answers that he will not understand, but that very soon they will destroy the world. Heighten finds a medal of the adventurer ancestors. When he turns to ask the Lich what it means, he disappears. Somewhere in the forest we find the Wyvern packing some to leave the place where he lives, since several strange things have been happening since a year ago when he helped Heighten. He has a strange feeling, so he hurries to leave. But when he is about to leave, someone has him. An individual has appeared in his cave in a sinister way, asking if he has seen his friend. The Wyvern does not answer, but the individual said that he heard him speak that it is not worth it to hide him. Resigned, he answers that he has not seen any human for a year. Somewhere in the world we find again the two individuals. They are the same that were at the beginning of the story. They are examining the rest of mana that was scattered on the floor of the mountain. It was used a week ago, in a long time analyzing. They discover who it is. Shin Ha-jun, this car destroyed. These two individuals are looking for the theory of why he self-destructed. One of them is going to speak. When he is interrupted by another subject, is the one who was in the cave with the Wyvern. The individuals are two boys and a girl. The boys Alejandro and Richard, and the girl Alyssa. Following what they were analyzing, they realized that the Lich self-destructed after a battle, which means that he was with a being more powerful than him. With this information, the group is on alert in search of who is the cause of this. We return to Ryu and Addis, in which the latter is in a question what happened before he fainted. Heighten answers that he jumped the wall because he was not going to go through the entrance full of guards with a naked guy. Then, as he did not know where his house was, he went to the old man, but ended up running. Then on the way he was chased by some guards, in which he had to flee. Addis was surprised by what he told him and thanked him for everything. Addis asked him to explain how Ryu is in that world and not being a human demon. So he explained that he was kidnapped in his normal world, but he still does not know why he is there. His guide mentioned that he had to kill one of the 6 goddesses. He does not want to continue talking because he knows that at some point he can go crazy and destroy everything, and that is what he least wants. Ryu gets up and goes to the door to say goodbye to Addis. Before leaving, he stops him and tells him that he is a descendant of the fire dragons and that they are to obey and never forget when another person has helped him, and with Ryu he has a debt. It is night and Ryu is arranging everything to leave, and that the old man appears, giving him several documents so he can pass without problems. Also informs him that he will send him his new identity documents. He wishes him a good trip. We return to the group of the 3 individuals who have captured the Wyvern. They are looking for the responsible of the brute force in destroying the Lich, also the dragon that was there. In the crossing of Ryu, this one breaks a wheel and tries to repair them. Do it far away, there are 3 people who are watching him, in which they are going to attack him. This one ignores it, lifts the car with a hand and places the wheel. The 3. Now he is driving the cart and showing Ryu his surroundings. He arrives in the city of Heighten, where there is nothing bigger than the biggest dungeon in the north called Crater Valley. Ryu realizes that it will be a little difficult to go down to the dungeon because it is in the middle of the city. Ryu passes the inspection and realizes that he delivered the wrong bag of gold. He stays in the ruin, resigned, looking for a sign about the building association to return, and notices that among the crowd is Addis with sign written "Veteran Military Wanted." This quickly grabs him and takes him away. Drinking tea, and asks Addis why the hell he is there. He replies that if the old man did not say anything, in which he denies, because it turns out that Addis was the person in charge of delivering the documents of his new identity. Also to tell him to form a group. Ryu, not very convinced, tries to deny, but Addis shows him a mansion and accepts completely, but making it clear that he would be the boss. Ryu tells him that he wants to go unnoticed because if the Inquisitors catch him they will think he is a monster, in which Addis agrees. The Heighten Hunters Guild found Addis and Ryu checking in. All were impressed by Ryu's size and musculature. His name is now Felad Benny. The sales clerk tells him to place his hand on the measuring stone, but he creates a scene by destroying it with one hand. Everyone is surprised. The sales clerk asks him if he is. Addis answers before he finishes the sentence is a Voltura the warrior race the legend. Moments before registering, Addis tells him that he will pretend to be the warrior race so as not to hide his power, and make it easier to enter and exterminate the monsters in the dungeons and see the goddesses. To which we return to the point where he is now. Everyone is impressed and the record is correct. In the distance we find Alexander and Richard watching them. Now we are somewhere on the continent with the three previous individuals. Alejandro and Richard talk about how they will find the dragon, and that Lisa says that the dragon blood dried up and cannot be used to locate it. They plan to change strategy. They change the subject, in which Alejandro announces that he has a new experiment, and that appears an individual of level 37 with artificial guide embedded. This makes him transform to assassinate. Both opponents are exhausted, but the girl is still standing. As for the boy, he begins to transform into a demon in which he is half human and Tetiro. This happens when he wants to use his abilities, but the girl defeats him with an electric ability. He goes to Alejandro and tells him that he has stopped his opponent. Richard asks Alejandro why he had not talked about this experiment, in which he answers that he wanted to have it tested to see if it worked. After the fight they ask if he can absorb experience, which Alejandro answers no. He ends the argument with only the humans of the other world and the monsters of the dungeons can level up by absorbing experiences by killing their opponents. The governor realizes this atrocity and tries to escape, but the previous girl leaves in search. Almost her life was a success, but she is caught and returned to the place where she was, in the dungeons of the Valley of the Crater. On the floor below we find Ryu fighting with several low-level monsters for Addis to attack them and gain experience in his dragon form. He explains that he can't gain experience, but he can gain strength because the dragons absorb the energy of their opponents, but if they consume more than he can, they die. We return to the place where the Gyrina is struggling to free herself, but it is useless. The girl who captures her launches an attack, making her faint. The girl takes her to her room, giving her a potion to cure her. In the dungeons we go to several people fighting to gain experience, and that they are lost by some spiders. Out of nowhere appears Addis and Ryu to save them. The whole group begins to investigate the dungeons. The girls who are in danger tells both and go to drink to show them the entrances and exits that are there. Ryu in his role denies, but deep down is eager to go. Ryu and Addis worked out a plan earlier, with the aim of becoming known, create popularity, and have more chance to meet the goddesses. After a while walking they find the magical center of the dungeons. Begin to investigate to see what they find. After a while find an artifact, and the guardian is the head of the dungeons, a giant spider. The battle begins and the two previous warriors plan to go against the monster while Ryu and Addis watch. The two spiritists rescued earlier help the two knights. This battle was very simple. They are celebrating when suddenly the real Tarantula Queen level 50 appears. The two hunters and the two spiritualists are astonished by the monstrosity that appears. Ryu and Addis put themselves in defense for any movement. They are calmly planning how to defeat it while the other hunters are having a crisis, worried that they are going to die. Ryu prepares to attack, but one of the hunters tells them that he is crazy. He does not pay attention to him. He throws his giant sword at the head of the spider. Seconds later it explodes, destroying the final boss. The two hunters are in shock. They go home and the whole group thanks Ryu and Addis. They end up selling the artifact at half price. In the distance there is a man following Addis and Ryu. He waits until Addis is alone and takes him away. The man starts announcing that he looks a lot like his older sister, taking all the attention from him. They were going to take him to another place, but they didn't realize that Ryu had gotten into the carriage, knocking out the driver. They don't trust the man. They tie him up and beat him a little. He starts talking about why he was there chasing him. It is a priest of the Order of Light, worships the altar of the goddess of light. The priest confesses he wanted to take him to a secret place to give him confidential information. Addis carefully let him continue. They are looking for a man named Alejandro. He is in the village of refugees. Addis, confused, tells him that he has not seen or heard of him, to which he asked if he has to do with any criminal organization and uses the village. The priest tells him that he wishes it were that simple, which explains to him that the refugee village is not originally deserved citizen of this city. The dungeon crater. The sudden influence of hunters were forced to live outside the city by heavily increasing the taxes of the residents by the ruling lord. Creatures of the dungeons, no matter how strong the hunter, a level 10 will not be able to against the night monsters that start to come out in the day. Villagers begin to fear them more than earthquakes and storms. Anyway, the order cannot interfere with the management of territories, so we are looking for an asking him in cooperation in helping the most needy. In return we can increase the level of contribution to meet the goddess. Addis fully accepts the priest's offer, but Ryu no. Addis, being a dragon hunter, is being told to search Alexander. He is messing with the dragon core, but they cannot capture him easily by not making any suspicious or out of place moves. The villagers call him up to hero. In a part of the village, Alejandro meets the girl previously. This is called Lich. He sends her to the refugee village to attack all the monsters that accumulate in the vicinity of the village. She, not very convinced, wonders what he plans, but he does not answer her. Returning some time later, we find Lich saving a girl from a monster. She is a little in trouble, and the Gyverna helps her, thus winning the battle. Lich and the Gyverna are in a lake bathing and talking a little, wondering what Alexander plans to let himself be seen and leave the lair of the dragon's nest to the sight of all. We see the house of Ryu. The priest explains the plan to Addis. You have to infiltrate that place. Alexander luckily is looking for a competent magician. Ryu also wants to participate to not leave Addis in enemy land, but the priest denies to be this very striking. In the end, Addis ends up accepting the request. Ryu, annoyed, complains to Addis for having accepted. If he enters alone, he will not be able to help him in any way. The discussion is strong and Ryu leaves the place. The next day we have the priest giving all the implements to Addis, who explains everything he has to do. From dragons we find a long line of villagers to enter, hunters who want to fight to destroy the monsters. What he does not know is that they will be used for Alexander's experiments. Addis is already where everyone is gathered to pass the tests and enter the dragon's nest. Her secret identity will be a level 30 girl. Lich observes her from afar and tries to prevent her from entering because she is suspicious and does not want Alejandro to have more powerful people with her. She throws her sword at him, but Addis dodges it. When he was about to answer the blow, appears an individual that they call him Pocket the Maniac, wanting to kill them both. He is level 40. He left the asylum for killing several people, and when he heard of Dragon Nest he wanted to fight to eat fresh meat. At one moment the judge appears and with a blow he knocks him down, killing him. Addis realizes that he is an aura user. The aura is a red-colored energy emitted when someone trains their body and life force to the extreme. Once someone obtains the ability to create aura, their strength will transcend beyond the normal. Ryu is training to achieve the management of aura, while Addis practices magic with new scrolls that she bought. Some time before Addis is accepted in the dragon's nest, she enters the place, observing every corner. Lich approaches her and graces her for saving her earlier for the pocket. Addis tells him that it was nothing. The judge approaches Addis and informs her that Alejandro wants to see her and leaves. He chases after him. It turns out that the judge is an infiltrator just like him and gives him information about some things inside the dragon's nest. One of them is to be aware of everyone and Alejandro's movements. They are about to enter Alejandro's office when he is attacked by Alejandro himself, thus discovering that he is part of the Order of the Light. Alejandro pays attention to Addis, asking who she is and giving her all the information he has about her false identity. He observes her carefully, but he doesn't believe her at all and starts attacking her with several ice arrows. Addis in defense is ready to attack anyway. He tells her that she will not leave here to report anything because there will be no witnesses. Lich is talking to the Gyverna and mentions that when she felt Addis she didn't have the same reaction as the others. Her body didn't feel that electricity, it was a different sensation. She gets on the Gyverna and has the same sensation, so she deduces that it is a dragon. They quickly go to Alejandro's office and see them both fighting. They think that Alejandro realized that he is a dragon, so he doesn't know that he is infiltrated by something else. Addis, cornered by Alejandro, is that by the vacuum, but appears a vital core that draws the attention of Alejandro. This is another dragon but cannot see who it is. Addis cannot move. At that time appears Lich, warning that another dragon has been entered by the east wing of the nest. Lich does not know this information, so she is worried about what could happen. Alejandro goes to Addis announcing that he will use her as an experiment. But Lich tells him that it is better to assign her a job inside the nest. He accepts and tells her that he will be in charge of her. Some time later, Addis thanks Lich. She also tells him her real name, as she is already discovered. Lich analyzes her to see if she can be an ally to finish with Alejandro soon. Suddenly Gyverna appears when she heard that Addis was shouting to Lich. Addis, happy to meet Gyverna, starts a friendly chat. Meanwhile, Ryu is struggling with the toilet because it has to be used from level 12. The house has become a pigsty as it has several level requirements. The only way to get money is going to the guild for a mission, but this being a personal back guard is denied. However, with his footprint he creates a small earthquake. The sales clerk ends up giving him one. The mission is small, but something is something. For Ryu to get money at this time is necessary. The guide appears announcing that he can use a new ability, DNA location. Excited, he begins his search. The individual he is looking for is in a cave in which a monster has him cornered. He is about to die, but Ryu appears, finding him. Several monsters see him and go to attack him, but what he does is to apologize to the monsters for destroying his home by making a hole. Everyone is confused by the comment he is making. The person he is looking for does not know how to react to what he is saying. Ryu cries when he remembers when a hellhound destroyed his house that took him 3 years to build. The person he is looking for yells at him to realize that he is going to be attacked. Before dodges the attack, we find a wolf of level 62, a snake of level 52 and a half-human spider. Ryu realizes that these are not normal monsters. He kills them with a lateral cut, leaving only the spider alive. Ryu thinks that he killed the boy who turned out to be the priest of the light. He could escape through the tunnel by the skin of his teeth. The priest, crying, tells Ryu that his plan was a failure because Ryu changes and tells him where the dragon's nest is located. His new mission in mind is to go save Addis. In the dragon's nest is Alejandro watching an experiment. The pocket is guinea pig this time. This is making him absorb the life force to see what reaction he has, but this does not work to be that the pocket is transformed into a monster. You need a humanoid guide. A week has passed since Addis arrived to the dragon nest. In that time, Elijah and Addis have been investigating every corner of the nest. Gaverna has not been very much to be too big to go through the tunnels, but she has been determined to complete the dragon core she has. In today's exploration there is no progress, but they discovered that dragon nest is not broken. At least they realize that the dragon core of Gaverna is very important to operate the mission. But they want to stop that plan and go Addis herself to absorb the life force. Before continuing to speak, a rumble is heard. The transformed pocket appears, destroying several columns. Several hunters arrive to stop it, but its level has increased to level 51. Several attacks are launched towards it, but none of them give it a scratch. Addis and Elijah want to attack, but they are overtaken by Gaverna flying in the direction of the monster. A hunter is trapped trying to get out of a carriage, but he can't. At that moment he is about to be attacked when Gaverna appears, throwing a flame at Pocket. This gives the hunter a chance to escape. Gaverna is analyzing the situation since his attack didn't help him much. Pocket starts throwing rocks trying to hit him, but he dodges them successfully. The pocket is hungry. Gaverna throws a powerful flame at him, but he catches it by the neck. Alejandro is in his office with a suit of armor, planning to go to fight with Heighten's Inquisitors. In the battle that is in the nest, Gaverna manages to turn the play using her hind legs and grabbing the pocket, taking it to the top, absorbing the vital. The monster explodes. It happily goes down to Elijah, announcing that she is fine, but she is very upset because he hits her, telling her to stay away from her at that moment. At that moment, Alejandro arrives trying to harm Gaverna, but Elijah dodges the attack. Alejandro tells him that you are trying to hide the dragon core from me. There are no second chances. Addis takes the opportunity to throw explosive arrows, but it doesn't work. Elijah goes against Alejandro, shouting to Gaverna to run away. If he catches her, everything would be over. Gaverna starts to fly, but Alejandro appears in front of her. He has used an artifact. In another side of the continent, Ryu and the priest are still up in the mountains looking for the dragon nest. He is desperate to see all the mountains the same. They try to use the spider they left alive, but it no longer speaks and has become cute. Out of nowhere they see lightning in the distance. Confused and determined to go find out, Ryu gets ready and goes running, leaving the priest alone. In the fight in Dragon Nest is in Alejandro with the dragon core in his hand. Addis and Elijah are trying to analyze the situation to defeat him. Addis cannot become a dragon. Alejandro uses a unique item that prohibits dragons in human form to transform. Elijah yells to Alejandro that the only guide to complete is hers because she offers if he lets everyone go. Addis realizes that the dragon core is only a place for humans and monstros to be together to absorb their energies. Addis tries to fight, but Alejandro is faster, knocking her down. He approaches Elijah, taking her by the neck, about to kill her, but in that moment Addis uses an attack, knocking Alejandro down, getting a small chance to get out of there. Gaverna manages to get up despite having a wing embedded with a sword, taking Elijah through a tunnel. Alejandro and Addis are left. Addis sends a fire arrow with powerful magic, but Alejandro has an artifact that does not hurt him. Angry, he sends Addis a high voltage electric current, but this does not reach Ryu at the right time, stopping the attack. Ryu, to see Addis in a bad state, does not give him a chance to ask for when he turns to punch Alejandro, sending him to fly, breaking several bones on the way. Addis sadly explains a little the situation to Ryu, and that no matter what level he has, is still weak. Alejandro was not going to be defeated so easily, as using the dragon core to absorb the life force and begin to attack. Alejandro launches an attack with his swords, increasing the damage, but Ryu manages to dodge it. In the tunnel where Elijah and Gaverna are both very hurt, Elijah does not respond, has a wound near the heart. Gaverna begins to cry, making this return another to consciousness. In the battle above, Alejandro has the dragon core in his body, goes all out to fight and launches a path of lightning. Ryu tries to hit him, but Alexander dodges it. Ryu realizes that Alexander is from another world when he mentions his level without having mentioned anything. Alexander's movements are fast, Ryu dodges them. He absorbs all his strength, making Alexander to be under his sword, but before killing him, Addis denies him by telepathy. He mentions that Alexander is operating the dragon core to absorb the energy of others to regenerate. If he dies, those who have low energy cannot recover, so they die too, but still have to kill him. He says he will respect his decision, that the deaths to come will not be his fault. Ryu leaves Alexander, giving him a blow to the forehead. Addis goes to the tunnel to do what Ryu asked him to do. Finishing the job now is important. Alejandro, smiling, tells Ryu that he had already thought that something like that could happen, but now it is important to kill him to continue with his equation. The new battle between Alejandro and Ryu begins.